Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of What's in a Performance, the series where I take scores, performances, videos, break them down, analyze them, and discuss what our favorite pianists are doing to achieve the sounds and recordings that they're getting. Now, if you couldn't tell from the title, thumbnail, or Shiro sitting next to me, today we are going to be taking a look at ANIMENZ's There Is a Reason from No Game No Life 0. Now, this video I believe is the first one that he did on his grant after he got it back, and so it'll be interesting to hear what he does and how he affects the tone and the techniques that he uses in order to play and get the certain articulations and the sounds that he's looking for. Now, if you would like to see the full-length video, it is available on Patreon, so be sure to go and check that out. And with all that being said, let's get right to the video. Alright, ANIMENZ's There Is a Reason. As usual, we're going to be making a lot of stops, so if you haven't heard the original already, you should go and do that. Let's get started. Ooh, that's very nice. So one thing that you can already note off the beginning is that a lot of people, I think they have a tendency to play these sorts of notes, and I actually see this a lot in my master classes when I get videos submitted. With these right, they just immediately lift. Right, like they don't hold the note for the full duration, and as a result, the phrasing gets a little bit off, right? It doesn't sound as connected, it doesn't sound as congealed. ANIMENZ here holds all the notes, right? So if we go take a listen again. Sure, there's like a detached, but like you see there, and the way that he lifts off is a very, it's not just a casual, flippant, I'm lifting off the key, but rather just a little bit of a push forward. So then the contact with the note is already a little bit gentler, and it also lifts off in a lighter fashion, right? So it signals the end of the phrase. So there's like a sort of gluiness that's incorporated into the way that he's playing, even though he's releasing the key. Even there. Ooh, that's very nice. So what I want to say is that even though the notes here are repeated, right? There's a small undulating line, and there's a little bit of musicality and shaping that can go into how they're played. This being the first verse coming off, which is a little bit more detached, a little bit more articulate. The contrast here that's being drawn is that the verse is instead very smooth, very phrased, very nice, right? There's an arc to the phrase, right? It sort of builds towards the center and then it kind of falls out from that. And so you hear the dynamics like da 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 da, slowly climb its way up and then come back down. Right, you can hear it's getting a little bit chunkier in the way that it's being phrased. Ooh, that's so good. Yeah, so if you hear the difference, right, listen to the contrast that he draws. Right, we're starting to move a little, right, in the arrangement, and so the way he ends, it's helped by the fact that he's playing with flat fingers. So he lands with this sort of like flat striking motion, whereas if he was a little bit more curled, he might get a little bit too much of an articulation, too much of an accent. So this is actually quite nice playing with the flat finger here. But then what's the contrast, right? As I said, when we're coming a little bit from above, the phrasing is a little bit chunkier. So how do you contrast that with the next section? By phrasing it very smoothly, phrasing it very nicely. You almost hear the melody kind of melt in from out of nowhere, right? So we take a listen. Ooh, listen to how delicate that is. Ooh, and even here, dum ba da da dum, right, it's lighter. Oh, let's go. Good use on the pedal. So what's the difference, right? If we listen back, every other measure he's been pedaling almost by, I want to say, he's almost by the measure or by the half, and he's holding the pedal through the rests and through the prolonged notes as well. Whereas once we get to here, what's he do? He lifts the pedal, and so that creates contrast again. Oh, this is quite nice. Right. Oh my gosh, look at his hand. Ah, that's so good. Okay, what am I listening to? He's starting off at a forte and not a fortissimo. It's easy to miss the fact. A lot of people would get here and just immediately go, right, all out fortissimo. But ANIMENZ holds back and is almost like borderline mezzo forte, right? It's mezzo forte forte. Why does he do that? So that he has enough space to grow afterwards. There's always needs to be a space to where you can go. When we're considering how to musically shape a piece, when we're considering how to musically put things together, how to phrase things, we also need to consider the overall arc of the piece. Where's my highest forte? Where's my lowest pianissimo? And then I have to fill in things in between. Am I coming from like a piano into that fortissimo? Or am I going from a forte into that pianissimo? Am I going from forte to fortissimo? Or am I going piano to pianissimo? Like all these questions need to be answered or thought about in order to create the right amounts of contrast, create the proper feelings of each dynamic on top of actually executing the dynamic itself. And so here we're going from forte to fortissimo. So what are we going to do to create that sort of difference? One, ANIMENZ plays this a lot more blockier, right? The forte section is a lot blockier and a little bit more detached. You can hear it's almost like Louis detached because again, he's doing this with the left hand and he's doing very similar motion with the right hand, right? He's coming a little bit from above and landing on the keys. And then the second thing that he's doing is he's using less pedal, right? He's almost like pedaling, it almost sounds like it's about a quarter or like very little like half pedal, and he's saving that for fortissimo sections so then he can draw things together. Remember, things that are held for longer sound louder in comparison to things that are held for shorter. And so by holding this part, by making this a little bit more detached, the next section where he's holding things longer and connecting them and gluing them together more necessarily feels thicker and feels louder. So if we listen, right, he's only pedaling enough to like connect the right hand. And now he's holding the pedal. It sounds like almost for the whole measure even. Yeah, for like the whole measure. And there's the weight going into keys, right? We talk a lot about weight. Right, and almost like a slight clutch, almost like that sort of like plucking staccato combined with this. Very nice layering. Oh, that's good. Whoa. I'm listening to the bass, right? Very nice. So it's quite difficult, right, to phrase stuff like this in between the voices. So what ends up happening a lot of times is that it comes out a little bit flat. But the way that he's playing it here sounds almost conversational, right? We still have a tiny bit of that arch da 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 as we talked about for the first verse, but it's a little bit less, right? It's a little bit flatter, and again, that's both partially because we're playing with thumbs, right, and it's a little bit harder to control it, but it's also an artistic choice. Right, you hear the change in the left-hand pattern, bum, 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 right, from before, because, why? The middle voice drops out, our main melody is gone, so what we're going to draw the ear to, right, now there's something for us to hear, something for us to listen to that's a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. And so he's able to bring that out a little bit, not necessarily via a lot of dynamic changes, but because we dropped one of the voices. Again, this is dry, so he's able to let the left hand, the bass, ring a little bit more because it's not muddying everything up in the pedal. Ooh, that's nice. Look at him come up and just drop onto the keys. Listen to how he's gluing the right hand together. And look at all the weight that's going into the keys, right? One of the things that I know a lot about ANIMENZ is that he doesn't make super intense efforts to connect everything, glue everything together, string it into big phrases and big arcs and stuff like that. But what he does do is he plays this sort of blockier style very well. And you can see here, he's doing that precisely by pushing in with weight on each and every single note to give each and every single note the proper articulation. Again, the gluey detached feeling. It's almost like a long portato. It's like a portato drawn to the very end of what a portato is, with just some detachment, or at least so that you hear only a tiny bit of detachment instead of hearing big detachment, as a more conventional portato would be. Right, so. Yeah, just see the bounce in the hand. And now there's the weight coming down right on the keys in order to build into this chorus. And it's immediately a big chorus, right? Oh. Look, landing on the thumb, right? And even landing on the thumb, da da dum, right? There's a phrasing. Ah, so nice. Immediate drop to forte. Oh, that's good. So we want to hear these layers. Right, it allows him to let the sparkly nature of the runs come through. And again, wow, nice phrasing, right? The contrast. I've said this many times before, right? There's many ways to create contrast. There's many ways to shape a phrase, right? You're looking at dynamics, you're looking at articulations, but lastly, I think probably the most difficult one is judicious use of phrasing, melodic, like singing type of playing, or like flat, straightforward, or more articulate, heavier sort of playing. Being able to properly pick and choose when to use, like, am I going to sing this very nicely, or am I going to just say this flat? Am I going to create dynamic or like all these things takes practice and takes an understanding of what you want to hear in your ear and what you want to hear in your head as well. And so it's very nice contrast here. He's not only dropping the dynamic here to a mezzo forte, but he's also changing the way that he's phrasing, which is very nice. I like how that goes straight into. Oh, that's nice. So listen to this. It's in fortissimo, but instead of writing very thick bass parts, right, like he's been doing with these like repeated chords on the eighth, it's actually much sparser, right? There's only 2 big bass jumps in each measure. Everything else is up here in the treble and just the melody. How does he make it fortissimo? By making it incredibly heavy, right? You can see the weight. Look how high he's dropping onto the key, and how he's pushing in as well. And how he's using the thumb, the heaviness of the thumb to his advantage in order to phrase the melody that's coming through in between. Like it's almost like punchy in nature, like ba 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 ba. That was a good pull. And now, how's he accomplished the fortissimo now? Right, he's changed up the arrangement so that there's a big runs in the left hand. So we're filling up space now with the density of the notes that are coming through. Again, sometimes we have to think about the arrangement in terms of energy and less so dynamics, right? Dynamics are just markings for energy. And like, how do we achieve a certain energy? Well, first, of course, we can just play louder, right? We can play louder, softer to hit the energy. We can play faster, slower to create tension or to release tension, depending on how the score is written. Or again, we can let the arrangement do the work for us. Right? Sometimes the arrangement is thicker, then it naturally lends itself to feeling like it's more energetic. Maybe it moves more, it feels more energetic. In the section before, right, where it was sparse, in order to achieve the fortissimo, he needed to play very heavily. But now that there's a lot of movement, he doesn't have to play quite as heavily. Instead, he phrases it a little bit more nicely and allows the pedal and the notes to do the work of making it dense, heavy, loud. Again, lots of weight going into the keys. You can almost see the tension in his hand and in his forearm. The difficulty is never in just playing loud or just playing fast. It's putting both together because you have to drive so much weight into the keys while you're doing all these runs. Ooh, and this is very nice. Taking time. Ooh, sugoi. And that's a good hold, letting it ring out. Anyways, yeah, these are all very interesting things, and the way that he's written it is very conducive to the way that he plays, which is very, very nice. But yeah, if you enjoyed that analysis, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. And if you'd like to support these sorts of videos, you can do so on Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, or by getting some WattKeys merch. Now, if you'd like to hear me talk more about ANIMENZ playing, you should click somewhere over here. Or if you'd like to hear me play some music, you should click right here. But yeah, until next time, everybody. Peace.